Dominique, Dominique. It's
Yeah,
very nice to talk to you. Thank you for agreeing to this. Um, my first question is three questions. Why not? You met at the Lecoq School in Paris, and I wondered when that was. What made you decide to study there? And what had you been doing before that?
Should I start?
yeah,
You
Yeah,
should.
I did economy at university. I can't say that I didn't like it, but it was not really thrilling. And I saw some mimes, they were everywhere in the beginning of 80s. And I tried to do like them, and like walking without moving and stuff like that. And I went to do a workshop, and I liked it very much. And I did some street. It was very bad, but I liked it. And then I crossed past an actress in Belgium, and I asked her, what can I learn now? And she told me about Lecoq School in Paris, a school based on movement. And I went, and that's where I met Fiona.
and I basically wanted to go to Lecoq even when I hadn't even finished high school yet, because I come from a small town in Canada, St. Thomas, Ontario,
I've
and
heard of it.
you have heard of it. Well, one of Dean
Just mentioned.
Gilmore was my hero. He was a little older than I was, and he went to the Windsor University and to learn acting. And afterwards, he went to Lecoq. And I wanted to go to Lecoq because I liked what he did, and I liked him, and I admired him. But my parents forced me to go to university first, so I went through university, and then I went to Lecoq.
But the theater university.
Yeah, it was theater. It was still interesting, but
Yeah, yeah. And so, Fiona, you performed with Complicité in, was it Put It On Your Head?
that's right.
How did that come about?
Well, Simon and Marcello and us too, but we were both in the same class. We had a great class. And so after school, we all kind of worked together and with others. And one of my projects was to work with Complicité. But I also had at the same time things going on with Dominique. Professional things going on with Dominique. Later on, the unprofessional things got started later. But so yeah, I was in that first show. It was really fun, great show. And well, little by little, as time went on, without even consciously decided, we chose, we chose paths to take, and mine was with Dominique's.
Good decision. Yeah, very good. Although Complicité haven't done badly, have they? Really?
They haven't done
No.
badly at all.
Well, yeah, well done, Helen, because they've just answered my next question. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was, but when did you two become a double act? But I think you've just sort of told us. Well, no, not really. I mean, when did you decide to go off on your own?
Right away when we got out of school, we were in Paris, kind of wondering what are we going to do, and all the other students went into their country where they came from, and so we looked at each other. We hadn't worked together not a lot at school, and so we said, let's go to Brussels. It's cheaper, the rents are cheaper, and we put on a show there, and we didn't play it too long. We were kind of in a period where we were trying a lot of stuff, like playing with Canadians in Canada, in London, or in Belgium. And after a while, we said we should try to do something clownesque, something very funny together. And that was La Danse des Poules, our show. We didn't know at that time that we were going to play it 2,000 times, but that was the beginning of our artistic couple on the stage.
Lovely. And it was a huge success, wasn't it? It came to the Mime Festival in 1989 and you were at the Place Theatre. But what triggered the change? Because that was a huge success. But it seems like you pretty quickly moved into short films, making short films.
Well, it wasn't really a huge success. We did tour it a lot, and that was because there were a lot of places to tour in. But it is a show that gradually got better and better and really got honed down, and so yeah, it got to be quite a good show. But I guess after we'd always been interested in cinema. And as soon as video cameras existed for the general public, we bought one of those big, huge, clumsy ones. And we were always trying things out, even right from the beginning, but we could never quite figure out how to make a film. Or there's something kind of escaped us. So how do we turn what we do into film? It always seemed sort of fake and contrived. And we got a kind of a click came through when we worked with Bruno Romy, who co-directed some of our other films with us. And we were in his first short, and suddenly we sort of realized how it all worked, technically worked, you know, the crew and all that. And we saw at about the same time Pierre Etex's Le Soupirant. And we saw that it was sort of the missing link. We saw how it could work for cinema, what we did at that time.
It was the slapstick was very inspiring, but very intimidating, because it was so good what we liked, like Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, and all those, that we were kind of afraid to try even. And yeah, the Soupirant was somebody who came after those big names like Tati even, and we said, yeah, he just did it, so why don't we try? And so we went into cinema, but before that we had 4 shows that we toured, and we still toured them while we were shooting. So we can say that we have 25 years of touring on stage, and then another step, another page blanche after to carry in cinema.
It's not that we didn't want to perform for the theater anymore. We would have liked to continue doing both, but in theater, you have to be so perfect. You have to be, the timing, you can't miss it. You just have this one chance before there's no editing possible. And so we've kind of felt that while we were doing cinema, we weren't giving enough attention to the theater side, and the dates were less frequent, and we weren't as good. So we thought, okay, let's just put it aside for the moment. And when we go back to it, we'll really go back to it and work on it and rehearse a lot and have a big enough tour to be on top of it, to be.
Oh, interesting. Look, we know that you were inspired by the greats of the silent movies, Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, Jacques Tati, Pierre Tex, as you've said. And you said that they were themselves inspired by the music hall tradition, which they took to the film screen. So it seems like you're kind of following a familiar pattern, starting on stage and moving into film. But
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to perform live again, or is film your genre now?
Now we have new ideas in films. So it's also because after 4 years on the stage and on the road,
25.
Yeah, 4 shows and
Yeah.
25 years in the truck, on the road everywhere. It's nice to have a change, and it's not only a change. It's like we can go farther into images, into colors, and also we have the chance to work with other clowns in the films, because on the stage we were always just the 2 of us. So it's a new challenge. It's a kind of evolution in our creative path that was very welcome, and we are still in that path now.
Yeah, that's great. We were aware that you were making all these short films, and there was never really an opportunity for us to present them as part of our festival, which we would have loved to have done. But yeah, it just didn't really ever happen that we could present and do justice to a program of short films. But then came 2020 and planning a 2021 festival. We always thought we would never do an online festival, and yet here is the perfect opportunity to sort of present your work in a good context. And although it's a screening at the Barbican Theatre that we're talking about, the Barbican Cinema rather, of short films. So you're doing 3 of your shorts, plus a couple of other films, which Joe will touch on, I think, in a bit. And so, we're just really happy to finally have this moment to sort of meet again on that. Where are you at the moment, actually? You look like, are you still in Italy?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, fantastic. I watched another interview and I thought, that looks a very familiar wall. And
Yeah,
that
we always have the same background.
You have a little bit of this of Italian sun you see there.
Oh,
When I move forward,
don't taunt us.
Liver.
Taunt us, yeah. God.
It's funny because in our last few years of touring, we already had our shorts.
Yeah.
And La Danse des Poules was always just a touch short. And it was always kind of frustrating for us and the audience because it only lasts an hour and 5 minutes at most, if people laugh a lot. Yeah. And at the end, we have this big backdrop, front drop actually, that drops down. And we would screen one of our shorts at the end of the show, and that was a nice thing. And we liked that kind of system, but for the moment, no shows. So
it's funny, isn't it? Because you say that your show, Danse des Poules, only lasted an hour and 5 minutes. Of course, now people love a short show. There's been a real trend. I mean, do you remember we once had someone complained that a show that we'd sent to Bury St Edmunds, I think, they'd spent longer travelling to see it than they did actually sitting in the show, and they'd sort of letter of complaint. I think you told them we were not selling wallpaper.
We once had in Holland people that wanted their money back because it was too short.
Oh dear. Have you ever actually played in St Thomas, Ontario?
No. They don't even have a theatre. The shows that I remember seeing in high school, they were mime shows also. It was in the public library. And the public sat sort of around the walls, and then the performers played in the middle.
Well, it seems like something you really need to do. But before then, we're delighted to be showing 3 of your short films at the Barbican Cinema: Merci Cupidon, Rosita, and I'll pronounce this one with my best English accent, Walking on the Wild Side, which all have a running time of 13 minutes. Now, is that a coincidence, or have you discovered that that is the magic length for your shorts?
pure coincidence.
Oh.
I say it with my best English accent.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know why. And the feature films, it's also more or less the same length without really studying it. And our shows also more or less the same length.
Spooky.
And do you, in all your different films, do you more or less play the same characters? Is it your clown? Is it the same?
Yeah, yes and not, because as a clown you have to play with your own vulnerabilities to make the people laugh and to share that. And so in each film we have the same vulnerabilities because it's us, but we have different background and different. I mean, the characters have different métier. I don't know how, whatever. It's different stories. But at the beginning we were changing our names, and after a while we said, why do we do that? It's us, and let's write Dom and Fiona. And also it made us think of Laurel and Hardy. They have different adventures, but I hope that the audience is coming to
see them again.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
We don't even think when we write about what our characters are going to be like. It's usually the situation that determines the different facets of personalities that sort of come out.
Yeah.
Also, when we write, we don't think really about what's going to be trying to be funny, because we know that we're not very good at writing funny things, but we know that once we've got the script and we start rehearsing, something will come out of it. Not necessarily funny, maybe just a beautiful moment, a little bit of poetry, something. So we don't worry too much about that in the writing stage. We wait till we get to the rehearsal space.
So what comes first in your creation process? Is it physical comedy, or how do you develop the storyline for, essentially a visual medium?
The first is the storytelling, but we have our natural clown taste, and we have 25 years of clowning. So let's say that we have a physical approach of the life. We like to observe. We like we like to see the bodies. We don't rely so much on words because we think that words are often too refined. But what we like is the moment before the word, like people who don't know what to say or who say the wrong thing and stuff like that. So that is deeply in our taste. But when we write, we try to find a story, and it takes a lot of time. It can take a lot of time just to find a beginning and the end and something which is simple and touching. And writing something simple and touching takes time.
So are you sitting in pavement cafes, hiding behind a book, watching people?
Not so. Well, we do, but maybe we're not so. Tati, he was a real specialist of that. He really loved to observe other people, and he wanted to put himself sort of in the back seat, even though he was an extraordinary clown, that he didn't really perhaps realize that how much he was an extraordinary clown. But I think we like watching people, but it mostly comes from there's enough. We make enough mistakes and trip over ourselves enough for it to be enough material to go on.
Fantastic. So who do you try your material out on? I mean, is there someone you go to? Is there a kitchen somewhere you try things out in front of an old friend? And what happens if they don't laugh?
We have a studio in Brussels and
rehearsal space.
Yeah, we are going in January. We start that rehearsal, and we play all the characters. Usually it's the two of us, and sometimes like another one, like Philip Martz from BP Zoom, who plays in all our film, or Bruno, or somebody. And we shoot quickly. We say, okay, we have 1 week, and we do all the film.
We rehearse always with a camera.
And just to see what we have. Some ideas just fall because it's not for me. I don't, or some new ideas arise, and so there is a few months where there is a ping pong between the writing and the trying, and more we are close to the shooting, more we do that in the real places, and it's still bringing new material.
But the judging of it is almost easier than in theater because we film the rehearsals, and it's meant to be on film in the end. We watch what we've rehearsed, and we can see right away if it has potential or not. Usually, if we discuss things, we don't agree about what's going to work and what's not going to work. But when we see it, we both, or the 3 or 4 of us that are watching, do agree, and that's usually the thermometer of what we're doing. It's what we filmed, and we're a very small audience of 2 or 3 people hurling with laughter or grimacing in pain at how bad it is.
And sometimes we cannot find the magical moment that we found there, because we are in a poor really black space. We're not just pretending and playing like kids, and sometimes we feel that we have a little pearl, but it's not a pearl for the next stage.
Yeah, that's it's the problem is more often, how do we get back the laughter that we had in the rehearsal space or in the rehearsal period when we're actually shooting, when everybody's very tense, when we don't have much time, when you do actually have a whole audience of people, but their reactions aren't
representative.
Yes, they don't. You can't trust that reaction because it's in that space and that time. So that's the difficulty.
This sounds a bit like a sort of starry-eyed question to a pop star, you know. But under what conditions do you find yourselves coming up with your best ideas? Is it in the bath, in the middle of the night, listening to music?
There is no rule. I think usually we find half of the best idea in the writing, and sometimes and usually the other half in the trying.
But often a good idea will come from the previous work. we'll be working on something and spontaneously things will happen that can't be used right away. So they're sort of kind of put in the cupboard of ideas. And then when we're finished, we'll open the cupboard up and see what we have.
The best idea are easy because they are good. So suddenly you have it and you write it and it's still there at the end of the writing and it's still there at the end of the editing. The harder is the bad ideas.
Yeah, but we never know what they are. That's the curse of the creators. You just don't know.
Fair enough.
I've heard it said that you really like working with amateur performers, or amateurs. They're not really performers, but you have amateurs in your films. Why do you particularly like working with amateurs?
We like them because they don't know what to do. They have no training, so it's pure. They jump into the proposition and they fall.
Really
they really fall, and that's what we like because we are clowns, and they have a unique way to perform because they didn't learn, and it's their way. And the thing is that after you have to choose which one. I mean, you do a casting, and some people don't flourish in that. But you have people who don't know how to do it, but who have pleasure to try it. And the pleasure is an important part of the work. And professionals have to work to find back that pleasure. And so that's why.
Very good. And I just wondered, in of the three shorts, Merci Cupidon has got quite a lot of people, without giving too much away. There are quite a few people in one of the scenes. And I wondered if are they amateurs or are they professionals?
Yeah, they're amateurs and friends who are also amateurs.
Yeah.
Except, yeah, even Bruno is not an actor. Bruno Romy, who co-directed, he's not an actor, but he always plays in all our films.
He's the bartender in that one.
He's the bartender in that one, and he's the bartender in Iceberg, and he's the bartender in the Ferry. He's always a bartender. We always have a bartender, whatever happens.
That's very important. A bartender, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if he also plays a bartender, but I know you sometimes work with Philip Martz, who you already mentioned, and he's one half of the comedy double act BP Zoom, which has appeared at our festival several times. And for those people who don't know him, Philip Martz is one of those amazing comedians, like actors, like Tommy Cooper in England, the late Tommy Cooper, who was just intrinsically funny. He didn't have to do anything. He only had to walk on stage and people were already in stitches. Or maybe that's just the way I feel about Philip Martz. But anyway, is it true that he lent you his baby for a film? And if that is true, did you give it back and how did it go?
We wrote this story of the film is called The Ferry, and we had a role, a baby
newborn baby,
and it was kind of dangerous moments for that baby, like to put him on the car and the car on the truck of the car, and the car is moving, and so we had fun to write it, but after we thought, who is crazy enough to give us or to lend us that baby? And we were speaking with Philip Martz and said, I think I have an idea because my wife is pregnant. And that baby came on the right time. Like he was already 9 months, I think. He's a big baby.
Yeah.
but it was fun.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun because Philippe and Sarah, the mother of the baby, they knew exactly how the baby was going to react to each situation. For example, he has to cry in a scene, and we thought, oh, we can't make a baby cry. That's terrible. And they said, no, easy. Just wait till this moment he's going to be hungry, and as soon as he's hungry he's going to cry for food, so we'll just let him that moment come. And then 10 minutes later, we also needed a baby to fall asleep. 10 minutes later he's going to fall asleep. So during the shoot it was really easy. We just waited for that time. He cried, he fell asleep, and the whole crew tiptoed around him throughout the whole shoot. It was
wonderful. Well, I'm relieved and delighted that Philippe did tell his wife
Oh, she was completely in agreement. Afterwards, she wasn't so happy that their son, the baby, thought I was the mother but I was the one that gave birth to.
Yeah, well, of course.
So can
Oh,
I just
God.
ask, when you make your films, how do you finance them? Are you sort of, is it commercial proposition entirely? Are you financed by sort of wonderful grant giving people in Belgium? Or?
It's commissions in France, in Belgium. I don't know in England how it works. I think it's more public in Belgium and France. So you just have to write a lot about your films, not only the script, but everything, how we are going, why, and etc. And then there is a selection. And if you are selected, after you have to defend the project orally by a Zoom or whatever, Skype.
Now.
And now, and then they pick up a few, and if you are happy, you have the money.
But that's only maybe a small third or even less of the money. In Belgium is a small country, so we need to co-produce with other countries. So we do the same thing in France. Then there are the TV stations that sometimes do and sometimes don't jump in. Tax credits. That's basically it for our films. They're pretty small budget films. Yeah.
And my perception is that there are more and more short film festivals. Is that the case?
I don't know if there are more, but there are a lot of short film festivals. You can really travel the world.
But there were a lot in the 90s when we started. There were a lot of those.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolutely wonderful sort of chance to talk with you and to present the films at the Barbican. So thank you so much. And we really look forward to, I know we've not said much about it. We're going to keep secret the plot lines of the films, but we really look forward to discovering those films. Thank you very, very much.
Well, it's a pleasure.